Alright, you're on to the first Monday of October, so what are we going to begin week 3 with? Wait, what the heck is this?
Oh, it's so beautiful.
Huh? Ha! Back to another HP Lovecraft story I see.
Be thou my vision, O Lord of my heart, not be all else to me, say that thou art High King of heaven, thou art.
Hey, wanna play hide and clap?
Hey everyone, it's Don G. Corleone here, and I am here with episode 10 of Halloween Horror Review 6. And for today's review, in episode 11, I meant to say episode 11. Episode 11 of Halloween Horror Review 6. For this review, this episode is going to be for the 1986 Stuart Gordon film, From Beyond, which is the other H.P. Lovecraft story that he had directed. And this one was requested by Wonsal Pictures. So what is the plot of From Beyond? So, Dr. Edward Pretorius and his assistant, the physician Crawford Tillinghast, developed this machine called the Resonator, one that can stimulate the sixth sense for the pineal gland. And when Crawford activates the apparatus, he sees creatures fly in the air and he summons Dr. Pretorius. The experiment goes out of control and Dr. Pretorius refuses to turn off the Resonator. Meanwhile, their neighbor calls the police and the police officers arrive. They see Crawford trying to escape from his house and Dr. Pretorius beheaded. Crawford gets sent to a mental institution under the supervision of sadistic Dr. Bloch. However, the prominent psychiatrist Dr. Catherine McMichaels requests custody of Crawford. Detective Bubba Brownlee, investigating the case, stays with them. And Catherine goes with Crawford and Bubba to see the Resonator and turns the machine on. And Dr. Pretorius returns in a mutant shape and attacks them. And the beginning of a gore night with weird life forms. So yeah. As for my reaction, this was another H.P. Lovecraft film adaptation I was requested by Wonsal Pictures, because I was going to need a few review movie ideas for the season. So, I just finished watching it, and how was it? I honestly thought it was good. I mean, I don't think it's as great as Re Animator, which I think Re Animator is a better film, but this was pretty good. 2 years ago, I reviewed Re Animator. And now 2 years after that 2 years after I did that, I'm now reviewing this other adaptation Stuart Gordon did. Starring some of the same actors, this time it's called From Beyond. From Beyond is not quite as noticed as Re Animator, but it's well known by some horror fans. But how was this film made? So, director Stuart Gordon had worked with actors Jeffrey Combs and Barbara Crampton on Re Animator. He cast them in the parts of this movie because he had become used to working with a company of actors during his time in theater and felt doing the same thing with Lovecraft movies would allow the actors to adapt more quickly to his direction. He was interested in possibly making a series of H.P. Lovecraft films with the same cast, like some of Roger Corman's Edgar Allan Poe adaptations. So Gordon, Combs, and Crampton would work together on a third Lovecraft adaptation in 1995, which was a direct-to-video film called Castle Freak, and would direct 2 more Lovecraft works. There was a film called Dragon 2001. There was an episode of Masters of Horror called Dreams in the Witch House that was direct-to-video in 2005. And many members of production staff for Re Animator held similar roles in production of From Beyond, including the screenwriter Dennis Paoli, producer Brian Usna, executive producer Charles Band, and director of photography Mac Alberg, and the special effects artists John Caboolture and John Nolan. And so, after the film was officially shot and completed, From Beyond would release on October 24th, 1986, to positive reviews from critics, and, well, it wasn't very successful at the box office, compared to something like Re Animator. But it's become more of a cult film nowadays for a lot of horror fans, especially fans of H.P. Lovecraft stories, H.P. Lovecraft film adaptations, and Stuart Gordon. So, what are the good qualities and the story of From Beyond? So, What does make From Beyond a pretty good, unique film? It's very loosely based on a short story from HP Lovecraft. It doesn't really have much to really adapt to the screen, but it leaves room for some creative liberties to be taken, and for a lot of 80s horror to do what it does best: the practical effects. Like, this is a film that, if you want some absolutely crazy good practical effects, this is one of the best horror films of the 80s to watch for that stuff. Directed by Stuart Gordon and produced by Charles Band Brian Usna, it's got 4 separate effects teams working on the visuals. One of them is Greg Nicotero, a cast comprised of Jeffrey Combs, Barbara Crampton, and Ken Foree. The film is very well stacked. And now for more on the effects. Like, the effects are the stuff that steals the show in this movie. Like, there's fantastic acting at times, but the effects are what easily really makes the movie. The special effects are easily some of the best practical effects in horror put to screen, and they hold up very well. Like, whenever it's any of the mutated people from the machine, or any of the creatures, especially near the end of the film. Like, this is from the team who bought us Re Animator, and it's presented another tasty Lovecraft nightmare. There's some sexual ecstasy, there's some graphic terror, and of course, the special effects atmosphere really just comes off as artistic and grippingly bizarre. And also, not just that, it really wants to gross you out with its really good makeup effects on the mutated stuff. It really draws you into this variant of pleasure to seek out some forbidden knowledge, and this whole quest, it's got this fear-gelling to get all together. So how do we start off From Beyond? So we start off the movie with this scientist named Dr. Edward Pretorius, who's developing his newest experiment called the Resonator. It's a machine that's going to allow whoever is in range to see beyond normal perceptible reality. His assistant, named Dr. Crawford Tillinghast, activates the machine, and some strange creatures fly in the air. He gets bitten by one of them, and they notifies Pretorius about the machine's functionality, and Pretorius, who's driven by lust for power and knowledge and fame, turns the machine on and becomes mad with the feeling the Resonator causes. The Resonator really malfunctions at full power, and Crawford, though, ends up panicking and fleeing. By the time the police arrive, Pretorius is decapitated, but there is no blood, and also the reason that happened is because, the police were arrived because a neighbor called and reported a disturbance by this point, but Crawford is framed for it all and arrested for murder. So Crawford is sent to a psychiatric ward, treated by the sadistic evil doctor named Dr. Catherine McMichaels. When Crawford gives his account of Pretorius' death, Catherine pretty much orders that Crawford undergo a CT scan. And it shows that Crawford's pineal gland is enlarged and growing. Catherine, though, is concerned with Crawford's innocence, so she has him released into her custody and takes him back to Pretorius' house on the Resonator, because either he can go with her or he can spend the rest of his life there, and he knows he has no other choice, so he basically has to go with her to go to the Pretorius' house. But this detective, played by Ken Foree, and Detective Bubba Brownlee, accompanies them and wants to investigate Pretorius' death. So, that's pretty much where our film starts off. And a film that's it's very nice, simple, and short. Without the credits, it's only 82 minutes long. So it's pretty nice and quick. It's not over too long. The police in this film, the police are not stupid in this film. And though they have to pretty much allow Crawford to be supervised by Catherine, they still insist on having backup. So they pretty much assign this cop to guide them, to kind of look after them. And this is a cop that's never heard of such strange stuff in his life. This off-duty one named Bubba Brownlee. He's never heard of this strange stuff, but he knows an opportunity that's going to make him some money. But he doesn't know, things are about to get really strange once he enters this case. And in almost a lot of Lovecraft stories, things always do go to hell. Dr. Pretorius may be dead, but he's not necessarily gone the 3 leads do believe he is. And the Resonator he created, this is very compelling and insidious machine presence with a life of its own, and it nearly destroys all of them. And so, there's some great symbolism of balance here, and Stuart Gordon really walks a good line between camp and creepiness, doesn't let the special effects overwhelm the story, and whenever he does turn to effects wizards, he really does see freaky things that a lot of 80s movies are well known for, with some excellent special effects, a wonderful cast like Jeffrey Combs and Ken Foree. And the monsters are very scary, well designed looking. Its story is very suspenseful. Like, this is definitely a horror film that a lot of 80s fans would definitely enjoy. Like, you really want something a little weird and campy or a little bit creepy with its effects, like Re Animator. Like, this is definitely kind of like a film to watch. Like, I mean, granted, Reanimator does feel better at times, but this film is still pretty great. So Catherine and Crawford arrive at the Resonator's place, and they rebuild the Resonator. Crawford then reactivates the machine, and this naked mutated Dr. Pretorius appears, and some more creatures appear, and Dr. Pretorius' consciousness is altered and expanded, and Pretorius tells of this world that's more pleasurable than normal reality, and his death was a means of assigning to the state of existence. And so Pretorius, now mutated, attacks Crawford, Bubba, and Catherine with his arms all slime covered. Crawford is able to shut off the resonator, but Pretorius and the creatures then vanish, and Catherine then, after seeing this, decides that the Pretorius resonator could shed light on victims and stuff with brain damage, and they should turn it back on, but Bubba and Crawford disagree on that, knowing the consequences that will happen if they do. And it's clear that in a few minutes they're going to leave. They're going to leave the house. So Bubba and Crawford are asleep during the night, but Catherine sneaks behind them, turns it back on, and Pretorius, now mutated, is brought back again. Pretorius then grabs Catherine and wants to absorb her mind and take her to the world beyond, but Crawford and Bubba have awoken up in a nick of time, and they go to the basement and they shut off the power. And then, of course, this well-designed giant war monster then shows up. The effects on it look great, and Crawford is attacked by it. And though Bubba's able to succeed in turning the power off, like Catherine and Crawford are rescued, but Pretorius is then sent away. And of course, you find a lot of interesting special effects and the gore. Like, there's definitely plenty of gore in the film, especially like some pretty gory moments, and there are some nice subtle moments of humor. Like where Catherine dresses up all kinky, and it's kind of like right near the more, not kind of somewhat more shaved Crawford. Or like whenever like Detective Bubba is kind of unfamiliar with most of this stuff, and at some point, even many times, it's like, we need to leave this house. Like, and to be fair, you can kind of see why he wants to leave the house. He kind of has a point to leave his house, because clearly this is not a good machine to turn on, and there's obviously gonna be a lot of deadly consequences, as you can see. So you can see why he wants to get out of there quick. But Catherine doesn't listen to the warnings, and she turns it on anyway, and it leads to all of this. While Stuart Gordon's other well-known adaptation, Re Animator, really does crack you up at a lot of turns, From Beyond actually doesn't really have a lot of humor. It actually is a little more played straight face, it's more played straight serious. Even with still some morbid laughs to be found, there's a lot of interesting stuff on human behavior in this film. And From Beyond really does have stellar acting for the three leads. Like, Ted Sorrell played the antagonist, Dr. Edward Pretorius, really well. And the gory and slimy special effects really work, and like the gore is very standout and also holds up incredibly well. And this film has a very bright pink thematic element, while Re Animator had a bright green thematic element. The score by Richard Band is also terrific, and there's some icky makeup effects by a lot of team of experts who do well in effects and practical effects. Like, the film is very energetic, stylish, and it does have some kinky moments in a way. Like, it does have some weird, bizarre sexual stuff that does feel pretty bizarre, but also kind of hilarious at the same time. Like, whenever the monster tries to kiss Catherine, or whenever it kills the sadistic doctor, like, it smooches her face and rips out an eyeball. And the movie really hooks you with the grabber at the opening, and it really just keeps you entertained with the off-the-wall insanity it has. Like, and as soon as that opening scene happens, when they activate the machine, and Dr. Pretorius is decapitated, you know you're going to be in for a pretty good time based on the talent involved, and they definitely don't disappoint here. So, Bubba decides enough is enough, and they need to leave the house, but Pretorius is back and is now able to manifest reality through all the willpower, and he reactivates the resonator. And so his antagonists have to run to the act to deactivate it, and Catherine and Crawford, they get attacked by bees. Bubba pushed them out of the way, but then the machine devours them to the bone, so unfortunately Bubba is dead and out of the picture. Crawford is able to fight off Pretorius and freeze Catherine, but then his large pineal gland forces its way out of his forehead, and that's where you get that scene you saw in the intro. And I really like it I really like whenever you see this whole pineal gland from its point of view. It actually looks like a thermal camera, so I thought that was well done. But Catherine short circuits the machine and sprays it repeatedly with a fire extinguisher. So she then she after all this, like after Catherine breaks down the machine, saves Crawford, she takes Crawford back to the hospital, and she's evaluated for her insanity because her story was just like Crawford. So Catherine is sadly now a patient in her own hospital, like Crawford is, and the sadistic doctor is preparing her for shock treatments by more sadistic staff members. Like, the staff even stop her from trying to escape even. And one of them even tells, like, if she escapes to date her, these are the kind of doctors you're cheering for to die. When they do die, it's very satisfying. Crawford is starting to develop a hunger for brains, and Dr. Bloch, Catherine's superior, sees this, tries to stop it, and he kills her by pretty much smooching her face and ripping her eyeball out. And then Catherine finally does eventually escape once its staff are all distracted by the scene, and then goes back to the house with a bomb, but Crawford is crazy and follows her. So, director Stuart Gordon really does a well job taking this short story, turning into this 82-minute long film. Right there, you could tell, they didn't really add stuff or stretch out the source material just to make it a more longer runtime. Like, the pacing is good, the setting atmosphere really pulled the viewer into the film. And there's definitely, really strange disturbing scenes in the film. Like, one bit where Catherine dresses up in black leather continues by touching Crawford in certain places, which is another bit. And whenever, Dr. Pretorius shows up, his mutated form is very grotesque and all stuff, and his behavior is very sexual-like and very creepy as hell. And whenever the creatures appear, or whenever Crawford distracts one of the creatures, it flies after him, and I see the great stop-motion special effects it has on it. Or even the ending scene when Catherine starts laughing maniacally whenever the neighbors immediately see her broken feet, her broken leg, and From Beyond shows that one thing that could be more dangerous than a discovered door is this man's obsession with peeking into it. It's this machine, the world in this machine is clearly a place that is not meant for mortal eyes or comprehension, and the story of this movie is good. It's not one of the greatest stories of horror, but the impression it gives is really good, and the flow of the story is very smooth, and it builds up the suspense and the thrills. And the idea of this other dimension coexisting with ours is very interesting, and it's a great idea for a horror film. In a way, it does this really good fantastical element. HP Lovecraft stories are known for all these fantastic mythical elements, and this film is definitely no exception. So, now we get on with the finale. So, at first Crawford's about to fall back, but then sees this other vehicle pulling up with the patient, and then hides. Then after that's all clear, he goes after. So, Catherine is back at the resonator and places the bomb on the resonator, but Crawford shows up and attacks her. He's about to eat her brain. She then bites off the gland that he got possessed with. And so he comes back to his senses and he's back to normal. And Dr. Pretorius then reconnects the severed wires to the resonator and fixes the damage. And the mutated Pretorius goes back and then decapitates Crawford. When Crawford's distracting one of the creatures from the machine, then Pretorius shows up and kills him. Pretorius is about to do the same to Catherine, but Crawford's consciousness fights for control within Pretorius, and the other consciousness then tears his body apart, and while Dr. Pretorius is killed, Catherine is able to escape the window just as the bomb explodes, and the resonator machine is destroyed, and both Pretorius and Crawford are both destroyed and killed. But unfortunately, Catherine breaks her leg in the fall, And when the neighbors see this, they gather around her. They announce that they've called paramedics, and one neighbor asks what happened. She then suffers this mental breakdown, says it ain't him between mad crying, mad laughter, and yeah, that's the end of the film right there. Minus credits, only 82 minutes long. But that is how From Beyond ends. So, how it went was Crawford sacrificed his own life to destroy Pretorius. Catherine McMichael's able to destroy the resonator, but now because of everything that happened, the latter is now driven insane, has a trauma-induced breakdown, and is clearly going to be insane for the rest of her life. Unfortunately. I mean, the resonator is destroyed. Yes, but Catherine has lost her sanity at this rate. And I can bet you, after being treated, she's going to probably go back to that hospital for good. Because she's now driven mad by everything. So unfortunately, even with the machine destroyed, there's not really a triumph for anybody. Crawford is dead. And his sanity's gone too. And Catherine's sanity is gone. And will be sent back to that hospital. Either way, because nobody's going to believe her story. No matter what she says. So now do I have any bad qualities with From Beyond? Well, if I would say... I'd say for the story itself, despite being a pretty decent story, its story is kind of slow at times. And it does kind of show with the flick. It does take a while before things do kind of go wrong. But when it does become truly horror. But Stuart Gordon also doesn't show blood, but also replaces it with slime. And some of the slime apparently was so grotesque that it got teared down by the MPAA. There are some queasy effects that probably won't really sit well with everybody. And another thing, I wish the ending could have been better. I wish Crawford didn't die. I wish Crawford lived at the end. I wish they did not kill Ken Faree's character off too early. Because that's the thing. I feel like they kill him off way too early in the film. And the rest of the film, it just feels like he doesn't really play much of a role. Sadly. That's the thing. There's a lot of horror films I like Ken Faree, and I wish they could have kept his character alive. Other than those, From Beyond is definitely a pretty enjoyable film from Stuart Gordon. And if you loved Re Animator, this is definitely a film I would definitely recommend checking out. It is on YouTube. It is on YouTube, guys. It is on YouTube. So in the end, I would say From Beyond is worth buying for fans of Lovecraft and Stuart Gordon, and loved his work on Re Animator, and want to see another campy, gross-out horror film adapted by an HP Lovecraft story from him. Anyways, that's it for my view of From Beyond, and we're going to rank From Beyond. Here's how I'm going to rank this movie. So overall, if you're a fan of Stuart Gordon, especially with the work he did with Re Animator, want to see another HP Lovecraft adaptation that has some great gore effects, then I would definitely watch a buy From Beyond for your collection for sure, no doubt. If we're going to rank From Beyond, I'm going to give From Beyond a 7.5 out of 10. Alright, here we go, guys. That officially wraps up my review for From Beyond. Now, I want to know in the comments down below for those who have seen From Beyond, what you thought of this film, whether you loved it, or whether you thought this just wasn't really a film for you. But until then, guys, that will be it for this review and episode. And we were wondering, what's going to be our next episode? Well, we're back into bad territory again. Because we are revisiting a horror series that I did the 2 films of last year. Continuing the ones that ended it all. Yeah, we're returning to Jeepers fucking Creepers. Doing the 2 films that we got after Jeepers Creepers 2 that were fucking worse. Yeah. starting with Jeepers Creepers 3, and then a different film, and then Jeepers Creepers Reborn. There. I'll review the other film in Jeepers Creepers 3's epic rant. So until then, guys, that'll be it for this episode and review. Thank you all for watching, and if you like this one to see more, don't forget to like, subscribe to Don G. Corleone.